When I turned 70, life didn't suddenly slow down the way I once thought it would. Instead, it shifted. These days, I live alone, and while that comes with quiet moments, I've learned something important. Living simply can feel full. Today, I want to share 10 habits that help me live below my means without ever feeling like I am going without. These are things I've learned the hard way by living. 1. Embrace a simpler but richer lifestyle. When I was younger, I thought that having more meant I was doing better. More tools in the garage, more shirts in the closet, more gadgets in the kitchen. I worked hard to get those things. And at the time, they felt like proof of something, success maybe, or security. But as the years went on, I started to notice something else. Those things were not making me any happier. In fact, they were weighing me down. After I retired and the house grew quieter, I started to feel the weight of all that stuff. Cabinets packed with dishes I never used. Drawers full of old cords and chargers I could not match to anything. Shelves lined with books I never planned to read again. I looked around one day and thought, why am I keeping all of this? Not because I needed it. Mostly out of habit. Or maybe fear. Fear of letting go. So, I started small. One drawer at a time. I gave away the jackets I had not worn in 10 years. I donated boxes of decorations that no longer fit this season of life. I kept the things that truly mattered. A photo of my daughter at her college graduation, my wedding ring in a velvet box, a few good books, and a handmade quilt from my sister that I wrap myself in on cold mornings. And do you know what happened? My house started to feel bigger, not in size, but in peace. There was space to breathe again, fewer things to clean, fewer things to fix or replace, and in that quiet, I found something else: clarity. Living simply has nothing to do with living without joy. In fact, it gives joy more room to grow. I now find richness in the little things: a hot cup of coffee at sunrise, a quiet afternoon with a book, a walk in the neighborhood where I stop to wave at old friends. When you clear the clutter, not just from your home, but from your mind, something beautiful happens. You start to see what really matters, and you realize you never needed all that extra to begin with. You needed space, you needed quiet, and most of all, you needed to feel at home in your own life again. That, to me, is a rich life. 2. Cook at home with purpose and pleasure. I used to think cooking was a chore, something my wife was better at, something I did only when I had to. For years, I leaned on takeout, frozen meals, or just skipped meals altogether. It seemed easier, but after retirement, especially living alone, I started to realize how important it is to take care of myself in ways that feel meaningful. And food. That is one of the most powerful ways. At first, I stumbled through it. I burned toast more than once. I mixed up salt and sugar, but I stuck with it. I remembered recipes my mother used to make. I called my sister to ask how she cooked that chicken stew we loved as kids. Slowly, cooking became less about feeding hunger and more about feeding the soul. Now, I make a ritual out of it. I put on music, usually old jazz or folk songs from the 70s. I chop vegetables slowly, not rushing. I use real butter. I cook meals in small portions, enough for now and maybe leftovers for tomorrow. And I eat at the table, not in front of the television, not standing at the counter, at the table, like I deserve to be there. And something shifted. I started to look forward to these moments. The smell of garlic sizzling in olive oil, the sound of the kettle boiling, the feeling of pride when something comes out just right. It became a kind of therapy, a way to reconnect with myself after a long day. Even when the only person I am cooking for is me, it also saves me money. Buying ingredients and cooking at home cuts my food costs almost in half. But beyond the savings, It gives me control over what I eat, how I feel, and how I nourish this body that has carried me through 70 years. There is dignity in cooking for yourself. It is not about being frugal, though that is a benefit. It is about saying, I matter enough to prepare something with care, even if no one else is watching. Even if it is just a bowl of soup and a piece of bread. Cooking has become one of the most grounding habits in my life. And the best part, I finally make meatloaf better than any diner in town. At least, in my opinion. 3. Downsize with intention. For most of my adult life, I lived in a 4-bedroom house. It was filled with laughter, with busy mornings, with slammed doors and late-night talks at the kitchen table. My kids grew up there. We planted trees in the backyard and marked their height on the wall each year. That house was a part of my identity. So, when it came time to let it go, I hesitated. But as the years went on and the kids moved out, the house got quieter. Rooms sat untouched for months. Cleaning became a full-time job. The utility bills did not shrink, but my energy did. I found myself heating and cooling rooms I never walked into. And one winter morning, after fixing yet another leaky faucet, I asked myself, who am I maintaining this for? So, I made the decision to downsize. I moved into a smaller place, a 1-bedroom apartment with sunlight that pours through the windows each morning. It was not easy at first. I had to let go of furniture that held memories. I had to sort through boxes I had not opened in 20 years. But I reminded myself, I am not giving away the memories, just the clutter. And what I gained in return: freedom. I no longer spend weekends cleaning rooms I do not use. My bills are lower. My space is cozier. Every corner has a purpose now. And best of all, I feel more at peace. This home fits me. Not the me from 30 years ago, but the man I am now. Downsizing is not about shrinking your life. It is about refining it, choosing quality over quantity, choosing comfort over chaos, and most importantly, choosing yourself. If you are holding on to a space that no longer serves you, I invite you to consider this. You deserve to live in a place that feels like home, not a museum of the past. Let the memories live in your heart, not just in the walls around you, because sometimes living with less means finally having enough. 4. Cancel the subscriptions that no longer serve you. When you are living alone and retired, every dollar matters, not in a desperate way, but in a thoughtful way. It is about knowing where your money goes and making sure it is going somewhere meaningful. A couple of years ago, I sat down with a pencil and paper and took a hard look at my monthly expenses. I was not in trouble financially, but I wanted to be more aware, more intentional. What I found surprised me. I was subscribed to 5 different streaming services. I had a paid email filter, 2 online magazines I never read, and a language learning app I had downloaded once and never opened again. Every month, those charges came out automatically, quietly, and without any benefit to me. Over time, I had just gotten used to them, but now I live differently. I do not need constant entertainment. I do not need 15 options for movies and shows when I usually end up watching the same classic films anyway. And I certainly do not need digital clutter disguised as convenience. So I made a decision. I kept one streaming service, the one I actually use. I canceled the rest. I also canceled the magazines, the apps, and anything I had not touched in the last 3 months. It felt good clean. Even like spring cleaning for my finances. This little act of canceling saved me nearly $100 every month. But more importantly, it gave me peace of mind. It reminded me that my money should be working for me, not disappearing into things I do not even notice. These days, I think more carefully before I subscribe to anything. I ask myself, will I still use this in 6 months? Will it add to my life? Or just fill a gap if the answer is not clear? I pass. Life is simpler now. I no longer scroll through endless options. I read more, I talk to people more, I am present. And all it took was letting go of things I was not really using in the first place. 5. Use your senior discounts with confidence. When I turned 65, I started getting mail that made it very clear I was officially a senior. Medicare brochures, retirement advice, and a long list of companies offering discounts just for being my age. I remember thinking, do I really need this? There was a part of me that felt resistant, almost embarrassed, as if accepting a discount meant admitting that I had stepped into a new chapter I was not ready for, but over time, I changed my mind, not out of necessity, but out of pride. I have worked since I was 16. I have paid taxes, raised a family, stayed up late fixing things that broke, and gotten up early to go to jobs I did not always love. Reaching this age is not a weakness. It is a badge of honor. And if someone wants to thank me for that by giving me a few dollars off my groceries or bus fare, I will gladly take it. Now, I make it a habit. Every time I go shopping or buy a ticket or fill a prescription, I ask, do you have a senior discount? And more often than not, the answer is yes. It may only be 10%, but 10% over a year is a lot. And beyond the savings, it is a small nod from society that says, we see you. We respect the path you have walked. There is no shame in using these benefits. You are not taking advantage. You are accepting what you have earned. If you are hesitant, like I was, I encourage you to shift your thinking. A discount is not a handout. It is a handshake from one generation to another. And let me tell you, that handshake feels good. 6. Invest in quality instead of quantity. When I was younger, I was always chasing a deal. I thought being smart with money meant spending less, no matter what. So I bought cheap shoes, discount appliances, and budget tools. I told myself I was saving money. But over the years, I learned a hard truth. Cheap things usually cost more in the long run. I remember buying a $20 toaster that broke after 6 months. I replaced it with another cheap one, and it broke again. Eventually, I spent $60 on a sturdier model. That was 5 years ago, and it still works like new. It took time, but I began to see the pattern. Every time I replaced something cheaply made, I was spending not just more money, but more time and more frustration. I had to fix, return, or throw away too many things that should have lasted. So I changed the way I buy. Now, I save up if I need to, and I buy the version that is built to last. I do not chase brand names, but I look for well-made, durable items. Whether it is shoes, cookware, tools, or clothing, I choose what will serve me over the long haul. There is something deeply satisfying about owning things that last. A good pair of shoes that supports your feet, a warm winter coat that keeps the cold out year after year, a sturdy chair that holds your weight and your rest without creaking. These things do more than save money. They support a better quality of life. At 70, I am not interested in buying more things. I am interested in buying the right things. Things that bring comfort, not clutter. Things that hold up, not fall apart. It is not about luxury. It is about respect for your money, your time, and your peace of mind. And the older I get, the more I value that kind of wisdom. 7. Share and trade with friends and neighbors. There is a certain pride in doing things on your own. I was raised that way. Fix it yourself, handle it yourself, pay for it yourself. But somewhere along the way, I realized that independence does not mean isolation. We are not meant to do everything alone. I live in a quiet neighborhood where folks wave as they pass by, but over the last few years, I've gotten to know them a little better. And you know what I found? Most people, no matter how private or polite, are more than willing to help if you just ask. And they are usually just as grateful when you offer something in return. My neighbor Jim, for example, knows his way around tools like a professional. I once mentioned that my kitchen faucet was leaking. He came by that weekend and fixed it in under 15 minutes. In return, I helped him sort through some health insurance forms online. He hates paperwork. I do not mind it. We never exchanged money, just time, just kindness, and that is the beauty of it. Sharing and trading are not about being cheap. They are about building something that money cannot buy: a sense of connection. When we help each other, we build trust. We create small bridges between our lives, and in those small acts, we find community. It goes beyond fixing things. Sometimes it is swapping books, or garden vegetables, or leftovers from a recipe you cooked too much of. I once made a big batch of chili and gave a container to the lady across the street. The next day, she showed up with homemade cornbread. It feels good to give. It feels just as good to receive. And it reminds you that even when you live alone, you are never truly alone. We are all carrying something, a task we cannot do, a worry we do not speak about, or simply the weight of another quiet evening. And maybe, just maybe, we were never meant to carry it all by ourselves. 8. Plan errands efficiently. When I was younger, I never gave much thought to how I ran errands. If I needed milk, I would drive out for milk, forgot the stamps. Another trip. But now, with a bit more time to think and a bit less energy to spare, I have learned how to be smarter about the way I move through my week. Gas is not cheap. Neither is my energy. At 70, a trip out of the house is no longer something I do without planning. Not because I am fragile, but because I have come to value my time, my steps, and my focus. Now, I sit down once a week, usually Sunday night, with a small notebook. I make a list: groceries, pharmacy refills, post office, hardware store. I look at what needs doing, and I group it. If I know I am going to the grocery store, I also plan to swing by the pharmacy in the same shopping center. If I need to return something at the store, I wait until I also have another reason to be in that area. This way, I limit my trips. I drive less. I walk more intentionally. I spend fewer hours stuck in traffic or circling parking lots. And the bonus, I spend less money. Fewer random stops mean fewer impulse purchases, fewer chances to say, well, since I am here, I might as well buy this. But perhaps more than anything, it reduces stress. I do not rush anymore. I do not forget half the things I need because I have a plan, and when I return home, I feel satisfied. I have done what needed doing without wearing myself out. Efficient errands may not sound exciting, but they are a quiet form of self-care. It is about honoring your time and your energy, and it is a gentle reminder that aging gracefully also means learning how to move through life with a little more wisdom. 9. Avoid emotional spending. Find real joys. Instead, there are some evenings when the silence in this house feels a little heavier than usual. The television is off, the phone is quiet, and the clock ticks louder than it should. In those moments, I used to reach for something quick shopping online, buying something I did not need, just to feel a spark, a new gadget, another shirt, a book I would never finish. It gave me something to look forward to. Sure, but it never lasted. The package would arrive, I would open it, and within minutes the thrill was gone. Then came the guilt, not because I had spent the money, but because I had hoped it would make me feel less alone, and it did not. So I started paying attention. I began to ask myself, what am I really feeling when I go to buy something I do not need? And most of the time, the answer was not desire. It was loneliness, or boredom, or sometimes just habit. So I tried something new. I went for walks after dinner, even when it was chilly. I started writing letters to old friends instead of just thinking about them. I picked up a deck of cards and taught myself how to play solitaire again. I even joined a small book club at the local library, just to sit in a room with others who love stories. and you know what happened. The urge to spend faded. Not completely old habits take time to unlearn, but the more I filled my life with real joy, the less I needed the false version that came in a cardboard box. Joy is not something you buy. It is something you build, slowly, quietly, with intention. Now, when I feel that tug, that little voice saying, buy something, it will make you feel better, I pause, I take a deep breath, and I ask myself, or can I call my granddaughter and hear about her day? And most of the time, that is exactly what I do, because no package on my doorstep can compete with the sound of her laughter. Track your spending without obsession. When I was younger, I used to think budgeting was something only accountants did. Back then, I got my paycheck, paid my bills, and if there was anything left, I might treat the kids or go out for dinner. I never wrote anything down. I figured as long as I was not behind on anything, I was doing just fine. But now, in retirement, things have changed. I no longer have a paycheck showing up every 2 weeks. My income is fixed. It is steady, but it is not growing. And that means I have to be a little more aware, not afraid, just aware of where every dollar goes. So I started doing something simple. I keep a notebook, nothing fancy, just a spiral-bound pad I picked up at the drugstore. Each day, I write down what I spend: a loaf of bread, a prescription refill, a gift for my grandson's birthday, even the coffee I buy once a week from the diner down the road. I do not do this to punish myself. I do it to stay grounded. What surprised me is how much peace this small habit gives me. When I know where my money is going, I feel more in control. And when I see patterns like how often I go out for lunch when I could have eaten at home, I can make small changes, not because I have to, but because I choose to. There is a big difference between being careful and being fearful. I do not restrict myself from the things that bring me joy. I still buy fresh flowers on Fridays. I still go out for pancakes with my friend Jerry twice a month. I still give generously to my church, but I do it with intention. This habit has also helped me say no when needed. I used to feel guilty turning down things, even small purchases. Now, I have a clearer sense of what is worth my time and money. I do not buy because something is on sale. I buy because it fits into my life. Tracking your spending is not about becoming obsessive. It is about honoring the life you have built and making sure you can enjoy it for years to come. It is about saying, I respect myself enough to know where I stand. And when I look at that little notebook at the end of the month, I feel something I never expected: pride, not for being perfect, but for paying attention, for caring about my future, even at 70, because it is never too late to take good care of yourself. Now that I have shared these 10 habits with you, I want to say something that comes straight from the heart. Living alone in your 70s is not always easy. There are quiet nights. There are days when your body aches in ways it never used to. There are memories that rise without warning, and moments where you wish someone was there to share a simple laugh or story. But what I have learned is, this dignity does not come from how much money you have, or what kind of car you drive, or how often your phone rings. Dignity comes from how you carry yourself, from how you take care of your life, your space, your choices, from the small habits you build that tell the world and yourself, I still matter. These 10 habits have helped me not just save money, but live with purpose. They have helped me make peace with this chapter of life and see the quiet richness it holds. I do not live in excess, but I do live in gratitude. And that, to me, is more than enough. So if you are watching this and wondering if you can make changes too, yes, you can. You do not have to do everything at once. Start with one thing, one small shift, and see how it feels. You're not behind. You're not too old. You're not alone. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this message meant something to you, I hope you will share it with someone else who might need to hear it. And if you want to keep walking this path of wisdom with me, go ahead and subscribe. We have more to talk about, more life to live, and plenty of good left to find. Until next time, take good care of yourself. You are worth it. You.